Look, I'm a fan of Primaris. The change in scale was both welcome and a long time coming, but those little firstborn Space Marines will always hold a special place in my heart. Like many people, they were my first 40k army, and at the time this stuff was peak Warhammer. I painted this Crimson Fists army in the early 2000s. A simpler time in the hobby, a time of Adeptus Astartes with wasp-like bodies, a time when the Horus Heresy was a vague and mythical event, a time when the Astra Militarum was known as the Imperial Guard. But that's a topic for another day. I've even got a Beaky Boy here. The only problem with these was that there weren't more on the sprue. These were the days before 3D printers, so they were always in short supply. The Heavy Bolter was my favourite heavy weapon. It was just so cool underslung like that. And hey, even 20 years ago I was painting different skin tones on my Marines. It takes all sorts to fight for the Emperor, no doubt. This army also marked my first attempt at freehand across many models, and I was very proud of these little fists at the time. That scale issue was always there, of course, but it didn't matter. At the time, these models felt so advanced and high-tech, we never really thought, oh, they're all little guys. No, they were the Emperor's finest. I'm pretty sure I only picked Crimson Fists because they have such a cool colour scheme, but in a sea of Blood Angels, Ultramarines and Dark Angels, they felt kind of unique and special. And I know these models are still around, but I feel their chapter is drawing to a close, so I wanted to make this video for posterity. I always loved the Scout models. I had some snipers at some stage, but this is all that's left. I've lost a lot of models from this army, but these are the survivors. Again, the Heavy Bolter is so cool, and I just had to paint this guy like Geordie. I mean, come on. The older Scout design before this was also very cool, where they looked kind of medieval, but for me, this is the iconic Space Marine Scout design. I even have a couple of these goofy old plastic Terminators. Talk about small. Okay, not the best models, but they do have their charm, and they were plastic, i.e. cheap, so everyone had them. Perhaps I'll paint strip these for a fun project. They never really were finished. Now, this Apothecary, one of my all-time favourite models in my collection. I just love how it turned out, and even though it's not the greatest paint job, it was one of the first Space Marines I ever painted, and definitely my first attempt at painting large areas of white. But I love him. If I had to get rid of every one of my Space Marine models, this is the one that I would keep. And he's really small. That's another thing about him. This model really shows, you know, how small they were. And they were great at this size because they were like these little metal nuggets, and they were just awesome. The Captain was made purely with multi-part plastics from the time, and it really shows the versatility of those kits. With Space Marines, there were so many cool parts that you could have fully plastic armies, which was a big deal at the time, and it was, I think, like the real selling point, you know, for Space Marines. All plastic and small armies. The sword arm and head here were actually from one of the Space Wolf kits, an artifact being the tooth bracelet, but that's just for good luck. These were the days when everyone had a chaplain to lead their army, and my Crimson Fists were no exception. I really like how this model is rocking the Mortal Kombat Kano/Terminator vibes. You know, this is what happens when you don't wear a helmet, but nobody is so bold as to have a fully helmeted Space Marine army. You just can't do that. Some parts of this army may have been lost in the mists of time, like all my vehicles somehow, but I'm glad I still have some pieces of it to remind me of the good old days, and as an example of my painting 20 years ago. Hope you enjoyed seeing them. I'll catch you next time on the Hobby Grotto.